There are fire starting techniques that work in pouring rain, freezing cold, and high wind. Methods so reliable that medieval travelers used them to cross continents, that outlaws survived decades in forests with, that armies depended on during campaigns in hostile territory. For over 1,000 years, every person knew how to make fire without matches, lighters, or any equipment that could break or run out. Just knowledge, materials from the landscape, and skills passed down through generations. Fire on demand, in any weather, in any location, without depending on anything you had to buy. Then, in the 1900s, survival became an industry. Companies began selling fire-starting equipment, lighters, matches, ferrocerium rods, magnesium bars, waterproof cases. They convinced people that fire required gear, that the old methods were too difficult, too unreliable, too primitive. Survival instructors stopped teaching traditional techniques. Outdoor education focused on equipment, and within decades, knowledge that had kept humanity alive for millennia was dismissed as impractical. But here's what they didn't tell you. Medieval fire methods weren't inferior. They were superior in every way. That matters when your life depends on fire. They required no equipment that could break, get lost, or run out. They worked in conditions that make modern gear fail, and they used materials available everywhere for free. This is why survival companies banned traditional fire methods from their curriculum, and why your expensive gear will fail you when you need it most. Welcome to Olden Path. If you've ever wondered how people survived before butane lighters and ferrocerium rods, hit subscribe and the bell. These methods could save your life when your gear fails. Method 1. The bow drill, the friction fire that works in rain. Take a straight stick, a bow made from a curved branch and cordage, a flat board, and a socket stone. The bow wraps around the drill stick. You press down with the socket stone while moving the bow back and forth. The drill spins against the board, creating friction. The friction generates heat. Wood dust accumulates in a notch cut into the board. That dust gets hotter and hotter until it ignites into an ember. You transfer the ember to a tinder bundle and blow it into flame. The entire process takes 2 to 5 minutes once you've practiced. Medieval people could make fire this way in nearly any condition. The method works because friction generates consistent heat regardless of weather. Rain doesn't matter. The spinning drill is generating heat faster than rain can cool it. Wind doesn't matter. You're working close to the ground in a sheltered position. Cold doesn't matter. Friction works the same at any temperature. Modern survival instructors claim bow drill is too difficult, that it requires too much practice, that beginners will fail. But medieval children learned bow drill by age 10. It wasn't considered advanced. It was basic knowledge. The reason modern people struggle is lack of practice, not inherent difficulty. You need to understand wood selection, proper form, and how to maintain steady rhythm. But these are learnable skills. Medieval people practiced because their lives depended on it. Modern people don't practice because they carry lighters. Then, when the lighter fails, they have no backup. The survival industry prefers this. If bow drill was widely taught, people wouldn't need to buy fire-starting equipment. A bow drill costs nothing. You make it from materials in the forest. No sales, no recurring revenue, no dependence on gear manufacturers. That's unacceptable to an industry built on selling equipment. What makes bow drill superior to modern gear is reliability. A ferrocerium rod wears out. Eventually, you've scraped all the material away and it stops working. A lighter runs out of fuel or the flint wears down. Matches get wet despite waterproof containers because containers leak or get damaged. Every piece of modern fire gear has a failure point. Bow drill has no failure point. As long as you have wood and cordage, you can make fire. The wood is everywhere. The cordage can be made from plant fibers, leather strips, or improvised from materials you're carrying. You're never dependent on equipment. The skill is in your body and your knowledge. That can't be lost, stolen, or used up. Method 2. The hand drill. The minimalist friction fire that requires only wood. Take a straight stick and a flat board. Hold the stick vertically on the board. Rub your hands together with the stick between your palms, spinning it rapidly while pressing down. The friction creates heat. Wood dust accumulates in a notch in the board. The dust ignites into an ember, transfer to tinder, and blow into flame. Hand drill is harder than bow drill because you're generating friction with arm strength alone. But it's also simpler. No bow, no cordage, no socket, just 2 pieces of wood. Medieval. People used hand drill when they had no cordage, or when they needed fire quickly with minimal preparation. Shepherds, travelers, anyone moving light, carried the knowledge of hand drill because it required carrying nothing. Modern survival instructors rarely teach hand drill. It's considered too difficult for beginners, but difficulty is relative to practice. Medieval people who used hand drill regularly could generate ember in under a minute. They developed calluses, technique, and wood selection knowledge. Modern people attempting hand drill for the first time struggle because they lack conditioning. Their hands aren't tough enough. Their technique is inefficient, and they give up quickly because they have lighters as backup. The survival industry doesn't push hand drill because there's nothing to sell. You can't monetize a technique that requires no equipment. Hand drill makes people completely independent. That's threatening to businesses built on equipment dependency. The key to hand drill is wood selection. You need soft wood for the board and slightly harder wood for the drill. Willow, cottonwood, cedar, yucca all work well. The wood must be dead and dry, but not rotted. The drill must be straight and smooth. Medieval people knew which trees in their region worked best. They could look at a landscape and identify hand drill materials immediately. Modern people lack this knowledge because they've never needed to develop it. But the knowledge is learnable. Spend time practicing with different woods and you develop intuition. That intuition is more valuable than any piece of gear because it works anywhere wood grows. Method 3. The fire plow. The friction method that works in humid tropical conditions. Take a soft wood board and a harder wood stick. Cut a groove down the length of the board. Rub the stick rapidly back and forth along the groove, pressing hard. The friction pushes hot wood dust to the end of the groove. That dust accumulates and ignites into ember. Fire plow works well in humid environments where bow drill and hand drill struggle because moisture in the air makes tinder damp. Fire plow generates hotter ember faster because of the plowing motion. The technique is common in Pacific Island cultures and tropical regions where humidity makes other friction fires difficult. Modern survival training ignores fire plow almost entirely. Most instructors have never tried it. It's not taught in military survival schools. It's absent from bushcraft courses. The reason is that fire plow is regionally specific. It works best in warm, humid climates. In cold, dry regions, other methods are more efficient, but that regional specificity is exactly why it should be taught. Different environments require different techniques. Medieval people understood this. They learned the methods that worked in their environment and taught them to their children. A Pacific Islander knew fire plow. A Scandinavian knew bow drill. An Arab knew fire saw. The techniques were adapted to local materials and conditions. Modern survival training tries to teach universal techniques that work everywhere, but universal techniques are often suboptimal compared to regionally adapted methods. Method 4. The fire saw, the bamboo method that tropical cultures perfected. Take a piece of bamboo and split it lengthwise. Hold one piece against your thigh or a log. Saw the other piece rapidly across it, using the edge of the bamboo against the body of the other piece. The friction generates heat. Bamboo fibers catch fire directly without forming a distinct ember. You blow the smoldering fibers into flame and transfer to prepared tinder. Fire saw is incredibly fast. Experienced practitioners can generate flame in 30 seconds. Medieval Southeast Asian and Pacific cultures used fire saw as their primary fire-making method because bamboo was abundant and the technique was reliable. This method is completely absent from Western survival training. Almost no one in North America or Europe learns fire saw because bamboo isn't native, but the principle applies to other materials. Any fibrous, woody material can potentially work as a fire saw if the fibers catch friction sparks. Modern survival training's failure to teach fire saw demonstrates how culturally limited most instruction is. The techniques taught are almost exclusively those used by European and North American cultures. Indigenous methods from other regions are ignored or dismissed as exotic, but those methods work. They're proven across centuries of use, and some of them are superior for specific conditions. Method 5. The fire thong. The rope friction method that uses fibrous plant material. Take a piece of dry rattan, bamboo, or other fibrous material and split it. Take a length of dry cordage made from plant fiber. Anchor one end of the split piece. Pull the cordage rapidly back and forth across it in a sawing motion. The friction ignites the plant fibers on the cordage. The smoldering cordage is transferred to a tinder bundle and blown into flame. Fire thong works exceptionally well in tropical regions where fibrous plants are abundant. The method is fast once you understand material selection. Traditional Pacific Island cultures used fire thong regularly. Modern survival training doesn't teach fire thong. Most instructors have never heard of it. It's not in survival manuals. It's not demonstrated in bushcraft videos. The knowledge exists only in anthropological texts documenting indigenous firemaking. That's a profound loss. Fire thong works with materials that are otherwise difficult to use for firemaking. Knowing the technique expands the range of materials you can use, but teaching fire thong doesn't sell gear. There's no equipment to buy, no specialized tools to market, just technique and material knowledge. The survival industry can't monetize that, so it's not taught. Method 6. The pump drill. The mechanical advantage fire starter that medieval craftsmen used. Take a straight drill stick with a weighted flywheel near the bottom. Attach a crossbar near the top with cordage that wraps around the drill. Push down on the crossbar. The cordage unwinds, spinning the drill. The flywheel's momentum carries the drill through and winds the cordage in the opposite direction. Pull up on the crossbar. Push down again. The drill spins rapidly back and forth without the continuous bow motion required for bow drill. The mechanical advantage makes it easier to maintain speed and pressure. Medieval craftsmen used pump drills for drilling holes in wood and stone. The same tool made fire. Place the drill tip against a fireboard with tinder, and the spinning creates friction heat that ignites the tinder. Modern survival training rarely mentions pump drill because it requires more construction than other friction methods. You need to make the flywheel and crossbar mechanism, but medieval people made pump drills because the tool was useful for multiple purposes. It wasn't just a fire starter, it was a drill for woodworking, for making holes in leather, for any task requiring rotational force. Modern survival training focuses on single-purpose techniques. Make fire with bow drill holes with a different tool. Medieval technology was multi-purpose. One tool served multiple functions because carrying less equipment was necessary when traveling. The pump drill embodies that philosophy, more complex to make, but more versatile once complete. Method 7, the striker light method using flint and steel, the spark ignition technique that dominated European firemaking for over 1,000 years. Strike a piece of high-carbon steel against flint or other hard stone. The impact shears microscopic particles of steel. Those particles oxidize instantly in air, producing hot sparks. Direct the sparks into char cloth, a piece of cotton or linen that's been charred in an oxygen-free environment. The char cloth catches the spark and glows. Transfer the glowing char to a tinder bundle and blow into flame. Striker light was the standard fire-making method across medieval Europe. Every adult carried a flint, a steel striker, and char cloth. Fire on demand in any weather. The method works in rain if you keep your char cloth dry. It works in wind if you shelter the initial spark. It works in extreme cold. It's fast, reliable, and nearly foolproof once you have the materials. Modern survival instructors teach ferrocerium rods instead of flint and steel. They claim ferrocerium produces hotter sparks more easily. That's partially true. Ferrocerium rods are easier for beginners because they're more forgiving, but they have a fatal flaw. They wear out. Every scrape removes material. Eventually, the rod is gone and you're out of fire. Flint and steel don't wear out meaningfully. The flint lasts for thousands of strikes. The steel striker lasts decades. And when the steel finally wears down, you can make a new one from any high-carbon steel tool. A file works. An old knife blade works. Even some nails work if the carbon content is high enough. You're never truly out of materials as long as civilization exists somewhere nearby. Medieval people understood this. Their fire-starting method was sustainable long-term. Modern ferrocerium rods are consumable products. That's intentional design. Consumable products require replacement purchases. Flint and steel require one purchase that lasts a lifetime. The survival industry shifted to ferrocerium because they needed a product that wears out. Striker-light materials last too long. There's no repeat sales, so they promoted ferrocerium as superior, modern, better, and they stopped teaching striker-light entirely. Modern bushcraft enthusiasts are rediscovering it. They're learning that flint and steel is actually more reliable for long-term use, but mainstream survival training still pushes ferrocerium. The financial incentive is too strong. Here's what connects all 7 methods. They work without modern materials. They use resources available in nature or easily crafted from basic materials. They don't run out. They don't break in ways that make them unusable. And they represent knowledge, not equipment. Medieval people learned these methods because survival depended on fire. Fire for warmth in winter, fire for cooking food, fire for purifying water, fire for protection from predators, fire for signaling, fire for sterilizing wounds. If you couldn't make fire, you died. That created powerful incentive to learn thoroughly. Children practiced fire making from young ages. Adults maintained their skills through regular use. The knowledge was distributed through the entire population. Everyone could make fire. Modern survival training has abandoned that model. Instead of teaching universal fire-making knowledge, it promotes equipment dependency. Buy a lighter, carry waterproof matches, pack a ferrocerium rod, bring a backup fire steel. The underlying message is that fire requires gear. If you have the right gear, fire is easy. If you don't have gear, you're in trouble. That message serves the survival industry perfectly. It creates anxiety about being without gear. It drives sales of fire-starting equipment, and it ensures that people remain dependent on purchasing products. If traditional methods were taught widely, that dependency would disappear. People would realize they don't need to buy anything. They can make fire with sticks and rocks. That realization is catastrophic for businesses selling fire-starting gear. The industry also benefits from planned obsolescence. Lighters run out of fuel. Matches get used up. Ferrocerium rods wear down. Every product has a lifespan measured in uses. When the product is consumed, you buy a replacement. That creates recurring revenue. Flint and steel, bow drill, hand drill, these methods don't get used up. They're permanent solutions. Once you learn the skill, you have it forever. The materials last indefinitely or can be replaced with natural materials. There's no recurring purchase. The survival industry can't accept that, so traditional methods get buried, dismissed, or ignored. Some survival instructors argue that modern gear is more reliable for beginners, that a lighter is easier than bow drill, that you should carry gear because it works when you're tired, injured, or stressed. There's truth to this. A lighter is easier than friction fire, but this argument misses the point. Gear should be backup, not primary. The primary should be knowledge. Learn friction fire first. Practice until you're competent. Then carry a lighter as a convenience tool. If the lighter fails, you're fine because you have knowledge. The modern approach is reversed. People carry gear as primary and have no backup knowledge. When the gear fails, they're helpless. That's dangerous, and it's exactly what the survival industry wants. Helplessness creates dependence. Dependence creates sales. Medieval people carried striker light materials because it was convenient, but they also knew friction fire methods. If they lost their flint, they could still make fire. They had redundancy through knowledge, not through carrying multiple pieces of gear. Modern survival advice tells you to carry primary fire starter, backup fire starter, and emergency fire starter. That's 3 pieces of gear that can all fail or get lost. Medieval approach was one small piece of gear plus knowledge of multiple methods that required no gear. That's actual redundancy. That's real preparedness. The techniques themselves are not difficult. They require practice, but so does everything worth doing. Modern people struggle with friction fire because they attempt it once, fail, and conclude it's too hard. But they're comparing their first attempt to a lifetime of using lighters. That's unfair comparison. Give friction fire the same practice time you've given to using lighters, and you'd be competent. Medieval children became competent because they practiced regularly from young ages. Modern survival training could teach friction fire the same way. Start young, practice regularly, build competence over time. Instead, survival courses teach friction fire as a desperation technique, something to try if all your gear fails. That framing ensures most people never develop real skill. The material knowledge required for friction fire is also learnable. You need to identify soft woods and hardwoods, understand moisture content, recognize straight-grained wood versus knotty wood. These are observable characteristics. Medieval people learned them through practice and instruction. Modern people can learn the same way. Spend time in forests, cut different woods, test them. You develop intuition quickly. Within a few weeks of practice, you can look at a dead branch and know whether it will work for bow drill. That knowledge is more valuable than a $500 ferrocerium rod because it works anywhere trees grow. The rod works only until you lose it or wear it out. What the survival industry has done is convince people that skills are too difficult and gear is reliable. That message serves commercial interests perfectly, but it's dangerous for individuals. Skills don't break. Gear does. Skills don't run out. Gear does. Skills improve with practice. Gear degrades with use. In every meaningful way, knowledge is superior to equipment, but knowledge can't be sold repeatedly. Once you teach someone friction fire, they don't need to buy friction fire materials. They're independent, and independence is threatening to industries built on selling solutions to problems they've helped create. Some modern survival schools are pushing back. They're teaching friction fire prominently. They emphasize skills over gear, but these are niche schools. Mainstream survival education, the courses offered by large outdoor retailers and survival gear companies, focuses on equipment. The courses exist partly to sell gear. Teaching people they don't need gear would undermine the business model, so traditional methods stay marginalized. If this opened your eyes to how fire was actually made before lighters existed, subscribe to Olden Path and hit the bell. Share this with people who've been taught that survival requires expensive gear. Comment and tell me which band method you're going to practice first. This isn't just about fire. It's about understanding that real survival skills make you independent, while modern survival gear makes you dependent on industries that profit from your anxiety. Medieval people made fire in any condition with no gear. You can too, but the survival industry needs you to believe you can't. That belief keeps you buying equipment that will fail you when it matters most.